Well, I was trimming the trees, cutting firewood with my chainsaw this afternoon, high on mushrooms. I had an epiphany. Funny how it works that way, right? Beautiful day, perfect day. Woke up next to G.I. Mary Jane, got to get all suited up and dirty. I still have this beard bead stuck on my chin that won't come off, even in my sleep. Pretty fucking amazing. But none of that really compares to just getting out and getting my hands on the chainsaw and the visceral satisfaction of cutting wood and having the psilocybin start. Well, oh my gosh, look out the window. Look how beautiful that sky is.
Gorgeous.
It's gorgeous, isn't it? Look at that. Look at that. Look at that sunset sky here in Gardenia, like almost every night. But why? You know what makes a sunset beautiful? You should know the answer to this by now. The eye of the beholder. So what makes you happy? Now, no talk about happiness, mentioning human happiness, without talking about the things we do to make ourselves happy, which includes a lot of drugs, couldn't be complete and have credibility as such. And I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks lately. I got my audiobook game down. While I'm out doing manual labor, I'm listening to audiobooks. And one I listened to recently, was called Drug Use for Grown-Ups, Chasing Liberty in the Land of Fear by Dr. Carl L. Hart. Now, Dr. Hart has some of the most incredible credentials in the field of drug research. As he said, he has given people tens of thousands of doses of drugs in laboratory settings to study their reactions and the effects on them and to document it scientifically. And he spent nearly all of his decades of it working for government, creating fear science, research that justifies the fear of the drug war. And I kept thinking about him describing his bosses in that capacity and the different people he was working with. And he talked about going to the Philippines under the extreme crackdowns in the drug war. Was it war on drugs, drug war on people? Because you can't wait it's people who do drugs who are the enemy in the war on drugs, right? So it's really war on people, war on freedom. And he kept talking about the absurdity of it, right? The negative response. And this is despite him having been, enmeshed in that world for decades and worked as an essential cog in the drug war machine as one of the scientific researchers, one of these great propaganda. I shouldn't say propagandists, but someone giving credibility. Imagine credibility, fake credibility, false credibility to the propagandists of the drug war who do what? They spread fear. It's about fear. And I kept thinking, like, what is it that's really behind that? And it made me think about this guy's cause to educate people about drugs, to inspire more thoughtful and scientifically founded, grounded drug use. And he took the general approach, Dr. Hart, of wanting to educate people. And I certainly believe that there's a component there. And I've taken it upon myself recently in my drug use to get really deep, get really intense. Joey and I, Saturday before last, for example, we had some LSD. Oh, was this? That book is dope. Oh, we got someone who knows that book. Awesome. Yes, Drug Use for Grown-Ups. Dr. Carl L. Hart. A good audiobook read by the author. But Joey and I weekend before last, did LSD. And I remember telling her, because we had gotten 6 tabs as a gift. And I had taken one as a sample before, and it was good. And I said, I'm gonna go heavier this time. We had 5 left, and I said, Joey, will you do 2? She's only how much now? 120 pounds to my like 210. I know. We don't know. We don't. LSD is weight dependent for dosage.
I'm a pro at LSD.
No. That's a very good point. I do think at a certain level, all drugs are weight dose dependent, right? Obviously, they have to be, but individual tolerances, conditions, and setting context and the individual comfortability with that state of altered mind definitely it could be described as tolerance. But I don't think that's really. I think chemically LSD, it doesn't matter. Point is, we decided she was going to take 2 and I was going to take 3. That was going to be like a big deal. I could have released for me to go. I'm going to take 3 tabs of LSD just like that.
I'll generally start with 2. That's my starter.
Yeah, Jenna. So like what about my and then afterwards I took 4 tabs of the other LSD, which I think is just denatured a little bit because I've had it sitting around for a while.
Yeah.
And it might be just somewhat degraded and turned into something else partly. Or a weird batch. But then I took 4 tabs of that and I had a major breakthrough. Like it was seeing trees waving into the hillside and geometric patterns in the sky and all sorts of crazy things and a day full of wonderful epiphanies and pleasures and insights and growth and self-knowledge and all of that. It was a wonderful experience. But while I was doing it, I told Joey, like, compared to so many psychonauts who have gone before us, certainly everything I've done, and dare I say most of what Joey has done, is like dip into the water ever so delicately.
I mean, recently, I grew up in the 90s rave scene. I did all the psychedelics.
Okay, so but going deep and thoughtfully in the way that Timothy Leary,
that didn't happen for me till my 30s.
Activists of his era really showed people what was possible through psychedelics. And it's not about precise dosage. It's not, part of it is just incorporating it into your life and being good at doing drugs and having a superfluous supply of whatever it is that you might want to do. And it's pretty amazing where we're at right now, where it's a luxury. I'll gladly recognize my privilege that I get to grow mushrooms and basically have as much as I need for myself, that we have access to other people who produce other drugs. But going back to Dr. Hart and drug use for grown-ups, in his work to educate people about other drugs, I feel like he was missing some core point. Not that anything he said was wrong, but that he seemed to keep running into the same wall of resistance to thoughtful, positive, mind-expanding, life-enhancing, conscientious, health-driven, science-founded drug use. There's more adjectives I could throw into that. I could put in a lot of like 2-word hyphenated word phrases in front of drug use and say like, yes, this is very good. Health promoting, mind expanding, world altering, vibration raising. That's really what I want to get to, because I know a lot of my audience, our audience with Anna versus the Man, is sort of politically inclined, right? Maybe not so much anymore because I've gotten away from it.
They're being fashion critics today.
Fashion critics. We're gonna talk about that too. But I'm gonna connect that to this opening monologue, and you guys are gonna see why I'm doing this episode tonight in my field. What they're talking about, my beard bead or my bandana?
Just all of
my work shirt. Okay, that's all it is. And the sawdust in my hair. Not drugs. Thank you, Bebo Baldessari on Facebook for that comment. Yeah, Daniel Massarge, my guy Coke is looking rough. It's been an awesome few days doing my chainsaw work here, and I've been doing it with the last of our LSD stash. But here's the point I want to get at, because a lot of our audience is sort of more politically inclined. I think I've been, in my own story, I'm going to use my own story to illustrate this transformation of thought. That I went from rah collectivism to rah kill 'em all Marine Corps to constitution, to liberty, to, I think, to lifestyle and civil disobedience. And one of the thoughts that I seem to meditate on a lot recently in the guidance for my own activism is a quote from Thomas Sowell, who said, um, you cannot expect positive results from arguing reason and logic with people who are emotionally committed to their positions. And this is where spreading the gospel of psychedelics awareness, positive conscientious drug use, life enhancing, is a key component of that. But it really is a lot deeper. Even, I hate to say that there's always one more layer. Henry David Thoreau, right? For every 1,000 striking the branches of evil, there is one striking the root. Let's try to strike the root right now of what all of this is about: the struggle for human progress, for freedom. Because you've heard me talk about emotional freedom. It's in the book. There's a section in Freedom on emotional freedom that describes the gap between response and conscientious response. That stimulus creates response in us, and that we cannot avoid pain, joy, pleasure, hunger, etc., etc. But our response to the response, the frame of mind, what we create in here is entirely up to us. That's emotional freedom. Love leads freedom. Love must come first. At least a recognition of self-love. I mean, if you're saying that I want freedom so that my individual will can be expressed and respected in the world, you must be expressing some, at least, respect, reverence, if not absolute love for the individual human will, for the individual human consciousness, for the collective human consciousness, even in saying so, because you must recognize we all, as human beings, fundamentally share that same experience. We all, in every moment, have the choice between love and fear. And yes, those are the opposites, right? The opposite of love is not hate, but indifference. What drives that indifference or that disconnect? Fear. If love is the force that connects us, that makes us all one, then it is fear, at least as a human emotion, that causes separation. Maybe you've heard freedom versus fear. But I would say that if you have your love game dialed in first, it's really just love versus fear. And I think this is particularly relevant right now, as we see so many human dynamics colliding. We can talk about COVID, right? We're not on YouTube anymore. So how long into 2 weeks to flatten the curve are we now?
2.5 years.
No, it's 2 years now. Flatten the curve was like 2 weeks to flatten the curve was spring 2020. Coming up on spring 2022. And I still remain absolutely optimistic. I should say confident in my conclusions that lead me to a rational optimism about human progress. But I think one of the ideas that is under-recognized in all of this, especially for those of us as activists who are motivated because we want to make the world a better place, is that what we're really up against isn't government. And it's not even propaganda or lies or coercion or a lack of recognition or respect for libertarian ethics seems to drive everything that I care about, right? No. It's that fundamental choice between love and fear. We all have a choice in developing our lives and designing our lives to say how we are going to pursue love, how we are going to push fear away, how are we going to live in that exuberant state of joy. Well, for me, I'm going to do as much mushrooms as I can while playing with my chainsaw and trimming trees in Gardenia. I hope for anybody who bothers to listen to me that some of that spirit of joy and love is contagious. That at least in the way I bring it to the man versus the man, the way I answer seemingly inane questions about current political issues. If anything, I hope that I can give a piece of that to all of you. But you know what? I can't. Because that's not how it works. All I can do is point it out. And then you can claim it for yourself. That's emotional feeling. And today, February 9th, 2022, thank you so much for tuning in to Anna versus Man. I got a lot of coherent thoughts in there. I don't know if it came together coherently, but I hope you all appreciated my meditation on happiness and emotional freedom and psychedelics this evening. I got to say, one other thing I left out is that there is something sort of forced meditative experience that you get when you do psychedelics, right? Which is the overwhelming sensation. And it's a sensation when you do it right. That everything is right in the universe. I do the hand signals. Everything is right in the universe, because that's how it feels to me. And I hope that everybody gets to enjoy that as much as possible too. I hope that you are motivated and inspired similarly to dedicate your life to sharing something as meaningful as that. And organize Revolt Tri-Pure LSD powder.
Try liquid Allen's.
Try liquid LSD. I've done that. Yeah, out of the dropper.
LSD powder.
Is my chin beard straight? Has it been crooked this whole time?
My chin beard.
It's
okay,
crazy.
do I look not see?
So yeah, I've been yeah, so I just decided I'm clean, like underneath all this. I have like a little bit in my hair and my beard and like my face, I have all this dirt and crud and used motor oil, which I use for chainsaw lube. It's great upcycling. Excuse me. But otherwise, like, I'm clean. It's been nice, beautiful, crisp, cool weather here in the mountains. Beautiful, sunny, clear day. I'm wearing like long johns and thick socks and a t-shirt under this, but thin gloves. And yeah, it's just been beautiful lately. So it's been great for getting out and doing that kind of yard work. Anybody who wants to be a part of it, come be a part of it. With that, let's get Jim and Joey on screen for producer's note. And we have a special producer's note announcement from Joey.
We did
about Snoop Dogg. It's not that. It's just another news story. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Not to Snoop Dogg, since we do it every day.
Oh yeah, for sure. Every day.
Congratulations to our first Snoop Doggy Dog. Where is this story posted? This is in the Adam versus the Man one now?
It's in the Producers Club.
It's in Producers Club.
Where all our great stories.
All our great stories are. We're going to talk about the show. Snoop Dogg has acquired Death Row Records, the iconic hip-hop label co-founded in the early 90s by Dr. Dre, Dick Griffey, and the DOC. So congratulations. I don't know if there's any other. Is there?
That's a multi-million-dollar record company. So good for Snoop. I don't know. He can deal with Martha Stewart, right? He can deal with mainstream media. He can deal with being that. I don't want to call Snoop fake, but I've got to. He's good at playing the game. Is that fair? Does that make sense? What I'm saying? He's good at playing the. Yeah, but I see not that sellout and get money and do it to.
You think Joe Rogan is a sellout, ended up lying to people and censoring prior guests. Well, in that sense, you go and allowing himself to be shackled in his message. We can say that's a bad compromise.
If Joe were using his millions to help his community, I don't think I'd be so upset about him playing that game and selling out.
Right.
Just,
So yeah, it's definitely subjective. What constitutes selling out, and then is your selling out good or bad overall, right? We're not saying that selling out is just inherently a condemnable term, but yeah, Joey is pointing out Snoop Dogg has had a certain amount of mainstream commercial success by playing the game well, and all these really, I mean, he's advocated wonderfully for cannabis. He's kind of restrained himself to that, as far as I know. Like he hasn't, but that's fine. You want sell out so that you can be the promote cannabis with rap music guy. Fuck yeah, we'll play you on this show every night.
Do you know what he does?
I'll bet Snoop Dogg does better shit with his money than Rogan.
Google, he donates a ton of cash, is what it says, every year to many charities, including Habitat for Humanity, the Orchid Network, Save a Life Foundation, Shriners Hospital for Children, the Healing Circle, and more. So he's got a huge focus on the kids. Quite often.
That's how rich people get their deductions,
Yeah, so with someone as big as Snoop Dogg, you need a little more analysis than that, Joey. No offense. You can't just look at a list like that and say, oh, he's legit. Because is that a significant portion? Is it time? Or is it something like his agent said, or one of his reps said, hey, man, we got to put together a portfolio of causes for you. Click some of these boxes, and we're going to throw enough money at them for you to look credible with it. Because like everybody who's got that kind of money does that.
Wouldn't Joe Rogan be doing that with all of his money?
We'll do the same thing for Joe Rogan.
I'll bet he does. He probably donates a significant amount of money.
Yeah, I'll bet his are like athletics and
Joe Rogan goes back well further than
Joe Rogan probably just donates to MMA shit.
That's what. Hey, MMA shit for kids or athletic stuff, like if it's significant or meaningful donations, like I'm gonna say fuck yeah. But you know what?
Last news story about Joe Rogan was him donating money to the Las Vegas Victims Fund in 2017 after shooting.
It's so dumb, boilerplate shit,
So like, no, it's not.
Oh, that's the only thing though. So no, he has nothing.
He's got nothing. And I'm not saying that he doesn't give any donations to anybody, because his accountant's probably doing the same thing. Hey Joe, we gotta write some stuff up, pick some charities. But it's not enough for the media.
Cover your ass shit later, yeah.
And if he were, considering the spotlight he's on right now,
I'm sure he's doing some
racist. I'm sure he'd be bringing it up if he did it. I'm just saying.
I'm sure we're undercrediting both of these gentlemen. But yeah, no, Joe Rogan has turned out to be as much as he so. I mean, this is the big controlled opposition thing of like what Joe Rogan has allowed himself to become, and a lot of people don't. I want to put a really fine point on this because Joe Rogan has done a lot of good stuff. He's interviewed a lot of good guests, myself included, right? But why did I get scrubbed as part of his selling out? I think let me first say the libertarians who get censored are the ones who advocate acting and living based on libertarian principles. You can say whatever crazy radical pie in the sky philosophy, ethics shit that you want, but if you're living it like we're here and you're advocating other people to do that, and the obedience component, that's what gets censored. And what Joe Rogan has done is, yeah, he's had other libertarians on since then, but they don't have that. So Joe Rogan has been used by the establishment to make libertarians portrayed to the public as people who just whine about shit and never act on it and never have the courage to act on it and don't get to enjoy being happier as a result. That enough is a severe enough twist of reality that people go, that the powers that be go, good job, Joe, right? Now, the other thing is like with COVID, they've got him doing, I did the COVID regimen with ivermectin and I took horse tranquilizers, and what else is CNN lying about, right? Well, they've got us arguing over what's the best treatment for COVID, they're missing the more fundamental point that I would make in all of this, which is that government has no business whatsoever or right to impose coercive restrictions based on health threats, period. Rogan doesn't advocate actually for challenging that. And that too, there's so that you go, well, look, Rogan is the hero of being anti-establishment. Yeah, and he's the one the establishment chose to fill that role. And that, I will say, is maybe there's some naivete on his part. Again, I don't want to judge, right? I'm just observing and pointing out these dynamics, not just to toot my own horn, but to show what's important about what gets censored and why even those relatively subtle twists can have such a huge impact. Anyway, we got to get to producers now. We got our first guest coming on in 3 minutes. Fucking
Yeah,
intro
definitely.
5 tonight. I'm having fun. Jim, hit us with the
I'll be
producer
very
now.
quick. I'll be very quick. T.me/Adam versus the man. That's how you can find information about everything regarding the show, even the guests that we had tonight. You'll be able to find contact information on them. I'm sure links to their stuff. Free to join, no signups, no easy stuff. Just T.me/Adam versus the man into any browser, and it'll guide you to the best place to be to follow everything Adam versus the man. If you want to support the show financially, you can do so at patreon.com/Adam versus the man. That gets you access to the private producers club, also on Telegram. Great time we have in there. And homefrontbattlebuddies.org. That's where you can donate a theft deductible donation. Homefrontbattlebuddies.org. I wish Snoop Dogg would put $1 million in that account.
Maybe we should email him.
Theft deductible.
The worst that can happen is they don't answer.
Whether Snoop knows it or not, he's been on our podcast like every night, every day.
Man. Yeah, totally.
Years, you know? Well, a year and a half. How many episodes?
Definitely a lot.
Well, our first guest is already backstage.
I'm pulling out my notes on him, but basically, my job is to be an asshole because he wants to be chairman of the Libertarian Party. I was getting scared backstage. I better not fucking bail. No, this is gonna be a fun interview. So, teasing ahead in the show, yes, Tony is our first guest. Tony Dorazio is going to be on here in just a minute. Then we got Bethany Hill from Mississippi, cannabis activist there with a mixed victory to discuss. We're going to be talking to her in an hour. We got some stuff in the Producers Club tonight show. We're going to go just over 2 hours. We're going to wrap after Bethany because I've been working all day and all I've had to eat is
nothing.
A handful of trail mix and a little bag of chips before the show here. I got my game down though. I'm still like I'm working up pretty well to one vegan meal a day. And I feel really good about it. You were
right on point for a while.
I was
for a good while.
I was getting there.
And then we got sick. We had to recover.
Well, then I went to jail, and then we got sick, and both of those kind of screwed up my game, my consistency in that. But I will say what I've done is I've added cassava shakes to the mix. This is not a paid endorsement. This is just random review, and I like it. So far so good. Cassava is like a meal replacement superfood shake. It's a powder that my formula is I have 2 old Gatorade 32-ounce Gatorade Zero bottles.
Oh, crusty Gatorade,
and I have
not BPA.
I have a growth. Yeah, those are BPA.
Are they?
They better be. Anyway, and then I have a little funnel that I made out of cardboard. I'll probably if this works for a while. We just started this. I'll up my game, but we're big enough to scoop 2 scoops of cassava in with. I put a little more water in than they recommend, and then put them in the freezer and shake them. And that's my dessert like every night. And so big salad or veggie stir fries I've been doing lately, but I've been pretty consistent. Where to me, cheating is opening my eating window up like a couple hours early, like having a handful of trail mix when I start cooking, or like late afternoon, early evening. That's a cheat day for me. I am like really, I don't want to say that I'm where I want to be with it, but I'm pretty close. But I am like compared to average American diet, I am best described as one vegan meal a day. That's not an unfair description. No. It's just that it's sometimes I sprinkle snacks a little earlier, and sometimes I draw out that meal. But like last night,
sometimes
it was perfect.
I tempt you with cookies.
Yeah, right. But I ate for an hour and I stopped. Like my whole eating window was an hour. So I'm doing almost, and this is the hard part I'm working up to, is 23 hours. The crazy thing is that I've been gaining weight recently doing this, and I've been gaining muscle. I'm up to like 215 right now. It's crazy. It's doing manual labor.
Gatorade bottles are in fact BPA free, so I think I'm gonna start adding vanilla to my morning smoothie game that I need to pick back up. So you've inspired me.
In case people let's say about this is I never have to wash the bottles. I drink it and then I reload it
and
then
then
put it in the freezer.
Right?
No,
Well,
and then if it gets worn out or if it gets gnarly, yeah, you just trash it.
Like your
Whatever.
cranberry.
It'd be nice to have. It'd be nice if this formula works. I will graduate to proper professional bottles. Anyway, we got news stories to get into. We got questions I know that are coming up. Joey's getting in the comments right now to answer. So we're going to come back and do that in about 30 minutes after talking to Tony. So let's get Tony up on screen stage. We did this more often.
Hey, there I am.
It's fun playing with the format every time. Ladies and gentlemen, Tony D'Orazio is an activist with the Libertarian Party of New York, currently first vice chair. He's been one of these hands around the party who has worn lots of hats. I could read from, he's the reason we are interviewing Tony tonight is that he is running for chair of the Libertarian Party. What kind of asshole wants to be chair of the Libertarian? I mean, you have to hate yourself at some weird level to want this job. And I am grateful that there are people like Tony who are really the drivers of the Libertarian Party who have been doing this for a long time. Our mutual friend, Peter Yapel, has sent me some hard questions to ask you. So we're going to get into that. And like I teased before, I've been a delegate to the Libertarian National Convention for the last few cycles. I've been a lifetime member since 2004. I've run for U.S. Senate and for U.S. President as a Libertarian Party. I'm a pretty good guy to play the asshole in this interview and grill you and be like, you really think you're gonna pull that? Really, you can do that with the LP? Really? But anyway, Tony, with all love and respect, before we get to the hard questions, you want to introduce yourself as a candidate, please?
Oh, sure. So I'm Tony D'Orazio. I'm former chair of the Libertarian Party of New York and current first vice chair. I'm running for national chair. I'm looking to put the libertarian principles in front, start supporting candidates and winning elections, and bringing the party back together, which is something that the LNC has not done a terrific job of doing over the past couple of years. So,
you're trying to be politically correct about it.
Yeah, because
you might as well tell me what you think of Nick Sarwark now.
Oh,
as the most controversial, relevant, recent chair of the Libertarian Party, big mystery, a lot of things. But if you give a thoughtful opinion, because there's no way, and I'm on the side of not liking most of what he did towards the end of his tenure. But cannot help but respect, obviously, the time he's put in. But I'm generally on the side of I'll let you. It's about you. You tell us.
Everybody seems to want to know what I think of Nick. I think it's a tale of two Nicks. Nick in the first two terms was really great. Nick in the third term, when there was a little bit more opposition, a little bit more turmoil, a little bit more conflict in the party, he didn't respond so well, and he went out with a. I think we all saw what he did at the end of the first sitting of the 2020 convention when we chose our presidential and vice presidential candidates. He kind of went down in a blaze of glory, I suppose, or I think he tried to have his little.
Why don't you, Tony, sum up your version of events of that for people who aren't familiar?
So for those who aren't familiar, the 2020 convention was split in half because we had some hosting issues because of the government restrictions. And the first half of it was a completely online function that was chaired by Nick, and there are some really fun memes with him just going like this, like he's having an Excedrin headache over it. And at the end of it, or near the end of it, with about an hour to spare, he basically took a point of personal privilege and went off on a rant and then dropped the mic and said, I'm not sharing this anymore. Handed the gavel over to Vice Chair Alex Merced, who not only chaired the last hour, which was kind of contentious over trying to figure out exactly how the second sitting was going to work without us getting hijacked, but also he chaired the second sitting at the convention in person in Orlando with a somewhat hostile chair on the floor, who I was a little disappointed in Nick's behavior surrounding the convention. Honestly, he had done really good job growing the party, bringing us some exposure in his first two terms, and in the third term, he undid a lot of what he did with, maybe 3 terms is too long. Maybe he got angry, and it got
okay. Hold on, then we're gonna get to my pet subject before we get to questions here, since because you're kind of leading into it well here, in that I am very familiar with the history of COINTELPRO, the FBI program to sabotage the anti-war and Black Power movements of the 60s and 70s before they got caught. And if anybody listening, I know all my regular audience has heard me say this before, if you haven't at least gone and read the Wikipedia page for COINTELPRO, go do that. It's Counterintelligence Program, COINTELPRO. So when it comes to that, and that's because I was active with Iraq Veterans Against the War, and we were mentored by a lot of Vietnam veterans against the war who would experience some of that subterfuge directly, including guy I consider to be my predecessor, Scott Camille, who was set up for a drug buy and ended up being shot in the back and then tried for the drug charges, being freed on entrapment, having the jury recommend that the agents involved be tried for attempted murder, only to see them all promoted. Just that. If they would do that to an anti-war veteran activist because he had that credibility, what would they do to the Libertarian Party if it was a threat to the duopoly? And without, I want to keep this conversation out of the conspiracy theory, speculative who's doing it, or who's really behind it, because it's enough to say that if the LP is a threat to the duopoly, there's going to be subterfuge. There are going to be people who want us to fail, who have huge budgets, who fund the old parties, who will infiltrate and sabotage the party.
We are a small fish playing in a pond with 2 extremely large fish.
So
and even though we are the biggest fish, we're still small.
How is this relevant to your experience, and what can you do as chair to protect us from it?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, you really brought up a great point, is that there are 2 big fish in this pond. The duopoly is a pair of 500-pound gorillas, and here we are, the 20-pound chimpanzee, who, by the way, is the 3rd largest gorilla in the room, because everything else is just a baby rhesus monkey or one of those cute little tamarins. But I'm all about the analogies today. We're trying to play in the same pond as those 2 big 500-pound gorillas, and we're getting ignored. But we're trying to play a game on our terms. And from a principle standpoint, I agree. But from a professional operational standpoint, I don't. We need to set up our party to be protected better from risk, which we're not. And there are all sorts of examples I can point to where the party has really exposed itself to risk that is killing us. We're not supporting campaigns like the big 2 parties do. We're kind of treating ourselves like a grassroots organization and not the professional organization that needs to support candidates and win elections. We're not built to grow. We're built to stay this, noisy little gnat in the corner while the 2 big parties just run roughshod over us. So by setting us up to grow, setting us up to put some of that risk behind us and not have that be a threat to us, we become a bigger voice. And this is where I think Nick Sarwark was actually on the right path for a while. He got us a bigger voice. He got us in front of the media. He got us on those Sunday morning talk shows. I'm not saying that I'm going to be the guy sitting on a Sunday morning talk show. Who wants to see me talking to Cokie Roberts or Nora O'Donnell on
What if I
Nation?
told you, hold on, quick sidebar, please hold that thought. I want you to go back to that. But what if I told you I thought you should, that I want a chair to be an active spokesperson for us in the national media?
Well, on one hand, I would agree, because as the chair, I am a bit of a figurehead, and I would have to be. But I certainly am not somebody who wants to be a celebrity. You know who I want to see be a celebrity? I want to see the Larry Sharps, the Donald Rainwaters. I want to see the John Monses. I want to see the Adam Kokeshes of our party, who are candidates, who are running. I want them to be the face of our party. That's what the big two do. Do people even know who the Democratic and Republican national chairmen are? No. Sometimes you do, because usually it's when they screw up or they're doing something bad, which, I never do. But no, the focus is on the candidates.
Okay.
Those are the people that should be out there giving the message. So rather than me taking all the opportunities myself, and there should be some opportunity for that, because we are a little different, and I'll probably be getting that in a minute. But we should be supporting our candidates and winning elections by putting, instead of having me on Meet the Press, put Larry Sharp on Meet the Press and have him get some exposure for his race for governor that he may or may not be running and I may not know about. This type of thing.
You heard it here first.
No. This is not inside knowledge. We are a little bit of a different party, because everybody knows where the Democrats and Republicans stand. Oh, look, there's this party on the left. Oh, look, there's this party on the right. We all know in broad terms what they mean, but the general public doesn't necessarily know what we are. So in addition to being an organization that is concerned about winning elections, running candidates, we're a little bit of an educational organization too. We have to show people, hey, this is what liberty actually looks like. This is what freedom looks like if you are a Black person in an inner city who is constantly getting harassed by cops. This is what it looks like if you are somebody who is anti-war. This is what it looks like if you are somebody who is really pissed off that they're paying 50% of their paycheck in taxes.
Okay, Tony, everything you said sounds great. I love it. I love your spirit. I know where you're coming from. It feels good. But I want to challenge you to get into specifics on this in two areas.
Okay.
One in protecting the party and one in promoting the party. So first, let's get into the promoting the party. Specifically, what are you going to, are you going to be a full-time chair? Are you able to commit full-time to this? Or how much time? Like what can you commit to organizing? What programs, what benchmarks? Give us specifics.
Those are fair questions. I'm going to be pretty close to full-time chair. I do have a day job that I can't yet afford to quit, but I hope to get there at some point. I'm getting there. But I do intend to spend I have a flexible job that allows me to spend a lot of time promoting the party, working on the party while media is paying attention, working on the party while donors are paying attention. I have a bit of flexibility to travel to support the party. I'm going to be out in front of leading the party. I'm going to be leading from the front, much like I am in New York. We are a mostly volunteer organization. This is a volunteer job that I'm running for some crazy reason.
Like I said, you have to hate yourself in some special way. We gotta have faith that you hate yourself in all the right ways to be chair of the LP.
Yeah, I'm doing it for the right reasons, because I'm seeing something in the National Party, and we're going to get there in a minute. That I think I'm uniquely qualified to handle, and that is the fact that there are very few people in this party who don't like me. It's not because they don't know me. It's because I work with everybody.
That's a bug, not a feature.
Sometimes. Some days it feels like that. So I mean, let's just call out let's call out the elephant in the room. There is a huge factional war going on right now. There is a group that has a particular name that everybody knows. Has been using some takeover talk.
Oh no, I'm not gonna let you do that shit. You better, Tony. Not on this show. No. Everybody who cares knows what you're talking about already. Okay. Don't be vague like that.
Okay. So we know what we're talking about. We know that there's that factional war.
Say the names.
You talk about, okay, fine. So you have the Mises Caucus, who has used that language. That's fair. But here's the thing. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care if you associate with the Mises Caucus, the Radical Caucus, the Prags, the Waffle House Caucus. Actually, I do hope you associate with the Waffle House Caucus because they're delicious. But the rest of them, I don't care. I'm going to work with you if you are pulling against the state and towards liberty. I don't care what caucus you affiliate with. It doesn't matter to me. We're not about taking over this tiny little pond. We're talking about taking over the state and tearing it down. That's what we need to be focused on. And that's, I think a lot of people see the factional warfare as a risk to our party, and it is a little bit because we don't have that many workers in our party. We don't need them expending their energy against each other. We need them expending their energy against the state. And this is one of those risks that I plan to get rid of. I'm going to lead from the front and get everybody on both sides of the boat rowing forward as opposed to just smacking each other.
Raising the profile of the party. I want to hear specific programs, initiatives, things that you would be committing to developing and building.
Okay, so for example, are you familiar with the Frontier Project?
Yes.
Okay, so for those who aren't, the Frontier Project was a program to coordinate efforts specifically for candidates in a couple of Western states, where libertarianism is kind of low-hanging fruit. I say low-hanging fruit. I mean, we're still the third largest party there, but it's far more
focusing on winnable races in rural frontier states.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's not. I mean, we need to grow liberty everywhere, but that's an easy place to grow liberty. Let's put the Frontier Project not in Wyoming, but in California and New York. The two hardest places to grow liberty, where we actually need the damn support. Let's grow this. And by the way, why is the National Party?
What practical elements of the Frontier Project is it that you want to see replicated in other places?
Specifically, I want to see the coordinated fundraising and coordinated volunteer efforts. Where the great thing about the Frontier Project is that there were 5 or 6 candidates that were involved there, and they got a great pool of volunteers that was aggregated and helping them all. We don't have that in New York. They don't have that in California. We don't have that in most places. That's the way that that's the way that all of our campaigns should be run. Nobody should be running in an island if they can avoid it. Sometimes you do, but especially smaller campaigns. But when we're talking about big campaigns, like, because I sit in New York, I live in New York, and I'm an officer in New York. I'll talk about that as an example. We have 5 statewide offices up for election this year: governor, lieutenant governor, comptroller, attorney general, and United States Senate. Chuck Schumer's seat is up for re-election.
About time.
In the past, we'd have a gubernatorial and lieutenant governor campaign because they're on the same line. That did a fair bit. You have a comptroller and an attorney general who were in name only. They're just a line on the ballot, and you don't. Who is this guy? They're just filling spots in the ballot and not contributing anything, and nobody's talking about them.
And everybody votes party line on those anyway.
Right. And then you've got a Senate candidate, again, where a lot of people do go party line, especially in New York. And they don't run a significant race. In 2018, the Senate candidate didn't run a significant race. In 2016, it was Alex Merced who was running, and he did run a significant race. But he ran a significant race at the same time as a presidential candidate. Why weren't they coordinating efforts? That's two separate campaigns there that weren't coordinating their efforts. Whereas if they had worked together, now you've got one volunteer pool who can talk about Gary Johnson and Alex Merced.
Okay, so I get the gist of your initiative. How are you going to, achieve this as chair?
Well, I'll tell you what. Chair doesn't act in a vacuum. Chair needs to act with the rest of the LNC, but I'm going to be the advocate. I'm going to be the one that's going to bring forward the expansion of the Frontier Project. I'm going to be the one that's going to bring forward funding these things, funding initiatives to build ballot access to defend a ballot access in the states where it's being threatened, like Alabama, like North Dakota, like New York. I keep coming back to New York, but these are the problems that are. Now you're over on that side. Interesting. You switch sides on me.
Connection issue here, probably. Well, hold on, Tony. Let me. We only have a few minutes left. I want to give you a chance, nuts and bolts wise. What do you do to protect the party from sabotage?
Kind of broke up there. I think you.
Sorry, nuts and bolts wise. What do you do to protect the party from sabotage?
What do we do to protect the party from sabotage? Well, it's very tough because we're small, but the first thing we do is we grow the membership. We make ourselves bigger, and we make ourselves bigger with actual libertarians. We target people who have joined those two old parties, not because they don't support our principles, but because they think that those are their only two choices. And we target those people who haven't affiliated with a party. And we do that by reaching out to those who have lapsed, reaching out to those who have shown an interest, and putting our principles in front, because that's really what draws people into the party. We've heard so many people say, oh, this weak messaging is just driving people away. I agree.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to stop you just because I want to move on to the next questions. I think for how you answered that, that's a fair answer. I would sometimes, I kind of want to hear more like policy specifics or how you would respond to specific divisions, but I don't want to get derailed with that. We're going to take some time for Peter's questions. And Joey, there were some questions from the audience. If I want to make sure we get those into, or Joey, if you had any, but first we're going to get to Peter's. Peter's got 4 questions. So keep your answers quick here, Tony.
I will.
Does he believe a reset is necessary for the LP to move forward?
A reset? I don't know if a complete reset is necessary, but we certainly need a reset. We need a reset at the top. I don't think anybody who is part of the establishment should be part of it. I do think that.
Hold on that. I got to interject. Are you saying that we need to replace most of the current executive committee, the board of the LP?
If you look at who's running for the board for those positions, it's not generally people who are on that board. So I think it's going to happen naturally anyway.
Okay. Is there? Let me ask. This is going to be a tough one.
Okay.
Who on the board do you want to keep?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Give me 3 names you want to see reelected. That way, if you don't give me 4, that no one will feel left out. 3 names. Three current board members you'd want to keep.
I would love to see John Phillips stick around, although he's going to tell me that I can F right off by saying that because he's a straight shooter. I would love to keep him. This is a tough one. This is really tough. I love TJ Ferreira. He has been great, especially bringing technology forward that is helping the LP at a relatively low cost. A third one. That's tough. I feel bad singling all these people out, but Aaron Adams, someone else who is
Okay. If there's anybody else you want to mention that you feel left out, go ahead. But I want to give you. Yeah, everybody knows you're under the spotlight. No one's gonna forgive. No one's gonna hold it against. Oh, you didn't. Oh yeah, I would have named you too.
No, she didn't mention me.
Good.
No,
There are other good people on the board. We all recognize that. Okay, so the next question from Peter: how does he believe he can unite a divided front?
There's a lot of people on each side of the front who feel like they're not being heard. I am somebody who I did it in New York. We had a similar fissure in New York, mostly because you had two sides that were just screaming at each other and nobody was being heard. I sat down and actually talked to them and brought them to the table and made them see what actual unity looked like. And now we have people on both sides of that fissure actually pulling against the state. Maybe we'll even get some more people elected this year. I hope so. But it's just that simple. It's not magic. It's not rocket science. It's just a willingness to work with people who might have a slightly different opinion from you.
Okay, no, good answer. Next from Peter: does he feel that the national organization should intervene or stick their noses into state issues?
No.
Good answer.
Okay. Who do you feel is the best candidate for 2024?
Oh,
I don't think he's going to be able to answer this one.
That's
the ultimate political question for the party, especially talking to me.
In a perfect world, Spike Cohen.
Okay.
But also that Adam Kokesh guy is probably going to run too. So, and he ran a pretty good campaign in 2020.
Let me put it to you this way instead, so you can give a real substantive answer. What do you want in the candidate? You're right. Give us a 30-second profile of your ideal libertarian presidential candidate for 24.
Really simple. I want a candidate who can clearly articulate libertarian principles to a national audience. I want a candidate who can speak a whole lot more clearly than I can under pressure. I want a candidate who is media savvy, because in 2024, you need to be a media savvy candidate. And that's not just traditional media, that's new media. That's what I want in a candidate. I want a candidate who can sell liberty in front of a camera.
All right, fair enough. Joey, this has been a lot of fun. This is way more fun than I expected. Tony's always fun to talk to. We've interviewed him before as a candidate. But Joey, did we cover all of the questions from the audience one way or another?
Yeah.
The one about Nick, the little esoteric. No, it wasn't about spending more time with his wife. I don't know if he ever said that, but no, we're not getting into that. I'm just saying it's a dumb question. But no, and a boatload of dirty laundry. No, it wasn't dirty laundry. There was real manipulative shit happening. So
and I wanted to bring that up because a lot of our audience is libertarian, a lot of them aren't, and I don't. The party is getting this terrible look that it's all about dirty laundry. So addressing.
Okay, it wasn't just dirty laundry. Like, it was real manipulative shit. Like, it was real shady political shit. I think we've covered that. So yeah, but yeah, thank you for the chance to.
The party is not the shit show the internet would like you to believe it is.
No, we're really not. We're not the shit show. We are the answer for liberty, and we just got to be a little bit better selling it. And some people really are selling it well. There's a reason why I'm sitting here talking to you, because
your core. It sounds like your core initiative, and for people who aren't familiar with the party's debate on this, there has been a genuine strategic debate between focusing on candidates in campaigns versus publicity versus ballot access versus membership itself. There are people who have credibly made the case that we just shouldn't have membership at all, that membership shouldn't be something we care about or something that we push, that we should focus on great candidates that get vote totals and win races. And what Tony is saying is that as a third party in this day and age, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, that you're one of your major strategic initiatives is saying, let's focus on membership. Let's build the active, at least paying $25 a year, carrying a card, getting a newsletter. Base of the membership of the party is grown and solidified, and people have an investment in it, and that gives us a kind of institutional momentum that solves some of the other sort of more direct initiatives. Is that fair summary?
Certainly makes a lot of them, my other initiatives, a whole lot easier.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with you, but I know that I'm not running for chair, so I don't have to have a good answer for that question. Then I'm glad that I don't.
Yourself like I do.
Glad that we do have a lot of people like Tony who I believe are legitimate and love the party and love the cause and are doing this for the right reasons. And so, Tony, I wish you the best of luck in your campaign. Win, lose, or draw. Any final thoughts, sir?
If anybody wants to reach out to me, contact me. Go to Tony4Chair. That's Tony the number 4chair.com. I would really appreciate if you clicked on a little donate button so I can get to as many of these state conventions as possible and actually talk to as many of you in person as possible.
Awesome. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for your time tonight, sir.
Well, thank you, Adam. I really appreciate it. Always a pleasure.
See, another cool thing about this pipe, and now I really don't want to break it, but I can use it as a gavel. This is all. I'm really loving this. The pipe from last week, my birthday pipe.
Do you know who I want to see as LNC chair? Who I think can bring it all together?
You have a fantasy candidate for
I have
LNC
a fantasy
chair.
candidate, and it is Dr. Feeney from Boy Meets World.
I don't even know who that is.
You know, Dr. Feeney, Mr. Feeney. He was the teacher. And every time the kids were scrapping and there was problems and there were racial issues in the hallway, he solved them. Everything was okay.
That's what we need.
Mr. Feeney stepped in. Mr. Feeney for LNC chair. I think that actor actually passed away.
I still like Joshua Smith. He is unavoidably tied to the Mises caucus at this point as the Mises candidate, and he's sort of, if he's, I don't know if he's running for chair again. I assume he is. I think he is.
I think he's already.
If he is, we're definitely going to have.
It, but
well, Reno's not that far off. Go once. State conventions are happening.
It is real.
I still like Joshua Smith for chair. I'd want to see him and Tony debate in person. That would be cool. But yeah, so that was. I mean, really interesting to see what the LP is poised for in 22 and 24, and we are going to be at the California State Convention next weekend, at least for part of it.
Yeah.
So I'm very much looking forward to touching base with friends and fellow activists there. We need to get in touch. Remind me after the show. We need to ask Emily what the status is for Arizona delegates. Sorry, that's an awkward footnote to interject in the middle of the show. Joe, write that down.
Write that down.
I'm gonna write it down because I can't put it on my phone notes. All right.
Arizona delegate and California. We'll be there.
We'll figure that out. My note's fine. But hey, we have some good cannabis news. Aside from being proven right and getting all sorts of I told you so's about cannabis being COVID vitamins that you're less likely, because we've been joking
since day one, joking about it. Like, I smoke too much weed.
Take your COVID vitamins and you won't get COVID. Smoke your weed on a daily basis. Smoke weed every day and you'll be healthy. And now we're being proven right about that. Like, they're unavoidable headlines. The science has spoken. That cannabis has great antiviral properties that are statistically significant in their effects against COVID. I forget the details of the study. I'm kind of just bullshitting now, but yeah, we've been proven right on that stuff so many times.
It has to do with the anti-inflammatory properties of cannabis.
Well, the thing that I knew,
that's what I
and CBD healing and tissue regeneration, right? But what I knew it as relevant to at least was the thinner waistline effect. And while it is true that it can be used to stimulate appetites, I actually use cannabis as kind of appetite suppressant during the day if I'm getting the munchies and I'm going, I gotta fast before I get to my calorie window.
I'm gonna keep talking to the brick wall on this, and the brick wall is you and most of America. It's Not all cannabis gives you the munchies.
Right. Yes, I
Some
said it can
cannabis
be used.
Is an appetite
can.
suppressant. There are terpenes that absolutely work
Yes.
as that. So
Okay.
it depends on what you're smoking.
And terpene awareness is the next phase of cannabis culture development, acceptance, mainstreaming. And I'm really looking forward to that because while I could study that and get to know it, what I really want is what we're on the verge of already with the market, although still I'm more concerned with like cheap quantity, but of having a choice of strains and knowing what they are reliably. Kevin Jessup, have you tried DMT yet, Adam? Oh, I've only got like 200 launches under my belt, motherfucker.
Just before you came back in from cutting wood, I was watching a David Wilcock and Graham Hancock special, who are two metaphysicists on DMT and out of body experiences and all that. We need to watch.
Well, hey, dear,
no, it's on the horizon. That's the next big thing is the psychedelics.
So I've got a little tail of shrooms in me still. Just a little. I took a party dose.
I didn't.
A buzz dose, a gram and a half at 2:30ish. Yeah. And it's 7:00 here now. So I'm like on the tail of it. You want to get shroomy tonight? Let's do shrooms now on the air.
We can do shrooms tonight.
Yeah.
I did a heroic. You missed this. I did a heroic dose of shrooms.
I want to hear that story.
Saturday night.
But let's start our next dose. Then it'll be like, hey, that's when the show's over.
Should we do this right now?
Do that. I'm going to share this cannabis story, and she's going to come back and tell about her awesome weekend adventure. But I want to share this cannabis news story from goodnewsnetwork.org. Cannabis can hold key preventing neurodegenerative diseases, including Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And it's kind of like that meme you sent, like you should post this, hey, you should do what your body tells you because it feels natural. And you said, okay, I will drink more mead. Because mead is really my favorite alcoholic drink. I like rum. I like rum cocktails. I like some good beers and IPAs. So I did 2 earlier. I think I'll do 4 right now. 4? Yeah, I'm gonna experiment with. So these capsules are 0.7 each. So 4 is 2.8 grams. So this is still we're learning how to dose in grams, but comparing to an 8, this is a bit less than an 8. Yeah, we decided 7. 2.8 instead of 3.5. 7 pills make 5 make an 8. 5 times 7 is 35 is 3.5 grams. So we're doing 4/5 of an 8, 3 or 2.8. How many are you doing right now? 2. You're just doing 2? I'm just doing 2. Okay. It's body weight. It's a body weight. This will be interesting. Yeah. So here's what's funny is I'm more of a lightweight on mushrooms than I am on LSD or mescaline or I just recently did DMT a few months ago for the first time, but that's just because it never crossed my path. So just to sum this up, I did. But the natural psychedelic, and I think it's a processing thing with my Crohn's, to be completely honest. Oh, interesting. Well, we're gonna hear the whole story. We have before Bethany comes on. But what I did earlier, so there's a record here. I did just 2 of these at 2:30ish, and what I felt from that was a mood elevation. And while I was playing with the chainsaw, and the sun was getting low, just the sense of vibrancy and beauty of it, and colors. It's brighter, right? I've been thinking about this. Like really, today was day for me. I listen to books on tape. I listen to audiobooks. Books on tape is what old people call them. Sorry. I was listening to audiobooks and making the books on the phonographs, making art and getting exercise. All at the same time. That's what human's all about. Expanding my consciousness because I listen to books like Drug Use for Grown-Ups. Today I was listening to How Stella Learned to Talk, which is about a speech pathologist therapist she teaches severely autistic kids how to talk using devices where they push buttons, right? She taught her dog to talk the same way, and I haven't finished the book yet, but it's fucking fascinating. And so doing a little bit of mushrooms today, I could have done more, but it was just it was Was it a microdose or not? It was kind of like right on the threshold for me.
That depends on
You know,
your system.
But I enjoyed it. It was there was a sense of just the epicness of what I was doing, and I really was when I'm trimming these trees. What I'm doing is like bonsaiing, tree trimming at the scale of like 15 to 30 foot high trees on the property, right? Maybe 10 to 30 feet is there, some are shorter. But it's art. It feels like art, and it's engaging with nature.
Totally.
And so I can do that for like 8 or 9 hours. And it's heaven for me. And the mushrooms today was a nice enhancement. I don't want to say it was a trip though. It was, in that sense, it was probably in the realm of microdose or right on the threshold. But anyway, did you do them already?
I did mine.
All right, cheers.
Cheers.
All right. So
Sorry.
quick on the story. Cannabis can hold the key to preventing neurodegenerative diseases as it contains a chemical that protects brain cells against aging. What's more, the miracle compound CBN, cannabinol, is non-psychoactive. In other words, cannabinol. In other words, thank you. In other words, it doesn't get people high. So they protect neurons from oxidative stress and cell death. So like, this is pretty cool. Yeah, and we're really just scratching the surface. But for now, just do your Alzheimer's vitamins.
Do your Alzheimer's and Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's. I called it old timers when I was a kid. My great grandmother ended up dying of Alzheimer's, and the onset took years. Like, it was slow. And I remember my grandparents and my mother talking about her Alzheimer's, but as a kid, I heard old timers, and I told everybody that my great grandmother had Alzheimer's.
Well, she
outlived all of her children, by the way.
Before we get to Bethany, do we have any other?
Bethany is not backstage.
I know. We have 14.
Oh, good. We have.
Yeah, I know. I need you to hear. I need you to hear the story.
There was my story of my trip. While you pull up in the Producers Club, there is more good news.
Yes, I thought so. That's what it is. I'll get to that.
Yeah, if you can find that.
Go ahead. Tell us the story.
No, so I went to the Lord of the Hammers event, which is a outside ATV off-road vehicle.
That sounds like it could be something really gay.
It does. It's really weird when you search it. There's not a lot of info online, so I wasn't expecting much. But I pulled in, literally drove past thousands of RVs down about 10 miles of dirt road into the middle of the Mojave Desert, and vendors and stages everywhere. I showed up last minute, and I was going to support my friends who play with a band called the Thrill Killers. Never really played in front of more than a few hundred people. I mean, they're a bar band. They're awesome. I love them. Hardcore punk rock.
I got to see them with you in Vegas.
Yeah, but they're just some dudes, right? But they got asked to open for Pennywise, an iconic punk band for any of you who have heard that have been around, gosh, since the late 70s, I want to say. Pennywise? I might be wrong on that. These guys got to play in front of thousands of people, and it was incredible. So I know they were naturally high from that. But right after the show, my friend and I did these chocolate bars. So the chocolate bar was supposed to be an 8, and we split it, which is perfect. But then about 20 minutes later, another 3 pieces of chocolate, another quarter of chocolate bar across my face. I'm like, fuck it. 15 minutes later, I could not lay down. And I say it that way because I could stand up. It just didn't feel good, right? I had to go lay down, and I experienced a pretty serious visual trip from my van, cuddling with Dutch, hearing the music right outside. The van was parked right backstage. And it was a pretty incredible spiritual experience. And unlike alcohol, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning and watched the sunrise over the desert and drove my happy ass away feeling 1,000,000%. And that's my psychedelic story for the weekend. I might have been on a microdose while I got my tattoo fixed, by the way. It's finished up. I strongly recommend getting tattoos while microdosing psilocybin. It was a pretty incredible experience. Almost, because I couldn't feel the needles. And a lot of people like that. They don't want to experience the pain, right? But call me a weirdo. I like it like acupuncture. So while it was a weird and different sensation, it wasn't the same, and I don't know that I would jump to it because I kind of felt like I got robbed of my acupuncture experience. If that makes sense.
All right. So a few more related good news stories. This is from the Producers Club. Well, first, cannabis, there's a bad one. Federal power utility threatens to shut off the lights on marijuana businesses
Yeah,
after
this has
Mississippi
to do-
legalizes medical cannabis. Again, Joey shared this in the Producers Club. This is from marijuanamoment.net. Explain the story, please, dear.
I want Bethany to go into further detail on this with us if we
Okay.
could
We'll come back to this then.
But apparently there is a federal organization that was founded back around the Reagan years that deals with
I know it was a federal power company anyway.
There's some more fuckery, and the good news in the Producers Club that I wanted you to share was the where is it? Scientists create cell-based psychedelic toad venom.
Yes, scientists create cell-based psychedelic toad venom, a potential 5-MeO-DMT biofactory from lucid.news. Yeah, explain this.
Like I said, the psychedelic revolution's on the horizon. So
it's here, yeah.
It's here. Right now we've got scientists legitimately working on this in laboratories, trying to figure out the science behind it.
Well, no, you're right to say it's on the horizon. Excuse me, that it's peeking over. It's we're going from dark to just peeking over the horizon. Maybe it's just the sun. It's just
peeking through.
Yeah, what this is just gonna. Well, why are you excited about 5-MeO-DMT?
Because it's natural DMT, like not from a plant, but from an animal. So we supposedly produce DMT in our pineal gland, which science is still figuring out. I just learned from the special that I was watching before the show I was telling you about, that's still, that up until a few years ago was just a theory. They've actually pinpointed that yes, human beings create DMT in their pineal gland. And I have to imagine that it's a more pure and potent version of DMT. I mean, if it's coming from a living being instead of a plant.
I don't think the potency. I mean, if it's organically produced, but it could be synthetically produced as a replica of that, and it would be just the same. I think that's I don't think that's the case with psilocybin, because there are in mushrooms related compounds that affect how it affects you very subtly. But it could be that somehow we're able to synthesize psilocybin. The reason that things like that haven't been explored, and you know this, dear, is that they because they are naturally occurring and they already exist, they cannot be patented.
No.
And so they are actually fought by big pharma.
There's the ethical arguments too, and the Lucid article says the demand for toad venom over synthetic versions of 5-MeO-DMT is driven in some cases by a spiritual belief that natural venom possesses a pure essence compared to lab-made, and therefore provides a richer experience.
That might be true for now.
While there's no empirical data to prove that that's true, the jury's still out over whether an entourage effect encompassing all the compounds in toad venom make it a superior option. Still, collection of toad venom is an unseemly practice in a dirty little secret of the 5-MeO-DMT.
How do you do this? How do you do 5-MeO-DMT, and what's the experience like?
You know, I don't know.
Isn't it somewhere between DMT and ayahuasca? Anyway, the thing is, there are different ways that you can ingest this, and whether it's better synthetic or organic, I'm not going to say one way or another.
Well,
I don't know.
Don't
There's some
assault
things.
A toad.
That's nice.
To make
the argument for veganism.
DMT from.
Let's not hook him up like we do with dairy cattle, and heaven forbid. So I guess we also got to do an update on Ed during the show, and there's good news on the horizon. I mean, we can say there are a few things we can say. Please go and check out the audio file in the Adam vs. the Man channel on Telegram, recorded from Ed in jail in federal prison in Florence, Arizona, just almost a week ago. He was getting he tested positive for COVID. He was in COVID isolation. He's just getting out of it now. He was having lung irritation from breathing in the lint in the blankets, and Joey and I were just like, yeah, man, we fucking been. He's 63. He's been an activist. He's one of the ones who's just never been to jail. This is his first time. It's a big deal, and it's we please be subscribed to the Adam vs. the Man Telegram channel, because right now he's got money for commissary, he's got money for his phone, but and here's the good news: he's been assigned a public defender who's actually a private attorney. This is something that happens in DC. I forget how it works, but it was somehow relevant to my cases there at one point as well, and where private attorneys volunteer to take a certain amount of government paid cases. It's a very interesting relationship I don't want to get into, but Ed is very confident, at least for the time being, with his public defender, and he has taken another crack at getting him released pre-trial. So that is in the works. I have to get in touch with him myself to offer character testimony, I think, something on evidence of Ed's lifestyle being peaceful and whatnot. So that's good. But I hope that everybody is standing by there in case there is a time that we need to do a call flood, or pretty soon he's going to start wanting just mail from people. He's refrained from asking for that because we saw Stuart Rhodes last week, also I think after the show, late last week. Stuart Rhodes was ordered to be transferred to Washington, D.C. That's Stuart Rhodes, head of Oath Keepers. So we were generally expecting at that point that the same would be true for Ed. His attorney, however, is optimistic and is going to be putting forth the effort that we were hoping for with a private attorney for him to be released pre-trial. Now, the answer to whether that's going to happen or not is probably predetermined for bigger political reasons than anything obvious with the case, but I'm glad that it's happening. And I think that's, I'm afraid that's all we have really for an update right now for that situation. It's all good stuff though, except, well, yeah, he's better than he was before. Really, recently, it's been all good stuff.
The difference between DMT and 5-MeO-DMT.
Oh, please.
They share the same name, some parallels in their brief and very intensive effects. The two are worlds apart, even in their chemical structures. 5-MeO-DMT is about as different from DMT as psilocybin is.
Oh,
It goes on. It says 5-DMT, it's different on a micro level with a few extra atoms. Also appears in plant and animals, including venom.
We'll just have to try some then.
5-MeO is traditionally used by shamans.
That's what the shamans use, is
the good stuff. I don't know. What did we have?
No, you've never done ayahuasca.
I've never done ayahuasca. No.
Well,
I don't even know if the DMT I did was 5-MeO.
Okay. Well, we have one other news story that's related to Ed's story, if you don't mind, before we get to Bethany. We got a couple other things I want to touch on. But this is from hiphopdx.com, also shared in the Producers Club. Rapper who used Capitol insurrection for album cover art recommended for one of the longer sentences. Oh, shit, really? Rapper Antion Bugsy the Don Broadnax sat boldly in front of the U.S. Capitol building as the historic insurrection unfolded around him. Last January 6th, seizing the opportunity, the Virginia native took a photo he later used as the cover art for one of his albums. But now that's going to cost him. According to WUSA 9, the Justice Department wants Broadnax to serve 21 months behind bars for participating in the melee. That's a good term for it. It's unobjectionable. It was a melee. Was it an insurrection? Was it a riot? Was it a protest? Gone bad? Out of control? No, it was a melee. Yes, definitely a melee. And if you remember that a government agent shot a civilian in the middle of that melee somehow falls short. As reporter Jordan Fisher explained in a tweet, the DOJ filed its sentencing memo for, I'm not going to say his whole name again. Broadnax pleaded guilty in October 4 to 4 counts with a plea agreement in place. 4 counts? Yeah, it says courts. It's a typo. DOJ wants 21 months because he was on probation. He had a DOJ asking for 20 months. Says the sentence is warranted by his extensive criminal history. He was on probation for a felony conviction
For
when
what?
he entered
Drugs?
the Capitol. Let's see. Yeah, probably.
Probably
no,
for weed.
No. Let's see. Possession of a firearm after having been convicted of a felony.
Right. They probably
He
got,
probably
he got
does.
caught with weed
And
he got a gun.
misdemeanor, unlawful possession of paraphernalia. Yeah.
Drugs.
Whatever the original felony was, I don't really care. It's kind of an interesting quirk in the story for going into the Capitol. But this is because obviously I want to compare this to Ed's case. So this guy went into the Capitol and has a criminal record. Ed has zero criminal record, did not go into Capitol. What makes Ed's case unique, though, is was he bringing firearms for violence for Oath Keepers, right? And obviously, I say no. Can the government convince a jury? I say extremely unlikely, but you never know what the fuck they're capable of fabricating or bullshitting. But even if he gets convicted of that, hard to compare him to the guy with a criminal record getting 21 months. So it makes me relieved to think that while Ed's
less than a year
looking at 20 years hypothetically max, and they're not going to throw more shit at him, I don't think. Seditious conspiracy is really all they have. I mean, they could add conspiracy to this, conspiracy to that, but I don't think that really works for them for a number of reasons. I'm kind of hopeful and confident in thinking that like Ed's not facing more than 3 years absolute tops if he goes to trial and loses.
Yeah.
And more likely
by the time he gets there will only be a year.
No, right. But, well, he's more what's more likely is he'll get time served. I think he's going to get a shitty plea deal that's time served. Well, I don't want to say time served plus some bullshit like house arrest and you can't be with other felons, and it's going to be a long probation, like 3-5 years, and he might have to negotiate. I don't want to say more. I don't want to speculate more. I want to kind of cut that part.
House arrest like triggers me. Like that is look, probation in and of itself is one of the biggest traps in the world. Like it's terrible. You can be taken in and not even know you're doing anything wrong. That whole being with a known felon, I've seen it on like episodes of Cops before where they arrest the guy for having a crack pipe on him and otherwise doing nothing wrong, and the girl he's with has nothing on her but happens to be on probation, so they get to assault and harass her too. And that's the trap that they put you in. But house arrest, I mean, that would be hell for me. Well, not me. If I can't leave Gardenia for a year, I think I could probably live with it. But for the average person, you live inside these 4 little itty-bitty walls, and at best you have your small backyard. And people don't visit one another like they used to, right? I would urge Ed and anybody else in that situation to just say no to house arrest. Sorry, my own personal.
Not accepted even? Just be like, fuck you, I'm going to trial.
Fuck you, I'm going to trial. If I got to hang out in summer.
I saw NA Poe.
Kind of cozy. You get gym, you get a freaking basketball court, you get not like.
I got to remind people the comparison of how me and NA Poe handled that cannabis charge in Philly, where he took the plea deal and he had like a year of pissing in a cup and shitty bullshit probation, quasi house arrest, very limited. Yeah,
either. That looks
and
bad.
it was. I think it was 3 years, and he only did like a year and a half or 2 of it, whatever. But he had to keep going back to court. It was really, really shitty for him. Whereas I only had to hold my breath for 1 more day, and then they said, "Okay, we're dropping all the charges against you." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." That was the one where they ordered me. The judge ordered me released from jail, and the cop releasing me was part of the arresting department. He was on the scene when I got arrested, and he was giving me my property back. It was the feds because it was park police. It was the green suits, not the blue suits. But he tried to, the Smokey Bear guys, not the horse mounted or Capitol Police assholes. But no, he tried to get me to sign these 2 tickets, like assembly without a permit and like possession. And I said, "Yeah, go fuck yourself." I didn't sign it, but it just took him. That was when they gave me the microphone back.
That's what I learned. I had the choice of doing. I think it was 1 year, which probably would have ended up being like closer to 6 months for me. or 90 days, 4 weekends, 100 community service hours, and 3 years on probation. I took probation and the shorter sentence, and I lived 3 years worth of feeling legitimately paranoid. I mean, always looking over my shoulder, like cops scared me, even though I wasn't doing anything wrong. They can fuck with you if they get your ID or they identify you. They just visually identify you. Say if you live in a small town and they know you're on probation, they literally you have no rights. You have no more rights on probation. When a cop walks up to you, if they tell you to jump, you have to say how high. That's how it is. And it's terrible. Probation's a trap. Don't do it. Don't do it. Sleep on the uncomfortable bed, eat the shitty food. You'll get over it. We all went to summer camp, right? Same thing, right? Would you agree?
Everybody.
Would you agree? Summer camp with some angry kids. Did you go to summer camp as a kid?
We went to dude ranches. We were spoiled. My
Okay.
dad's company took
With
us
the
to
Girl
dude
Scouts.
ranches. So we did like horse stuff.
So not summer camp.
Not really.
Okay. Well,
No, it wasn't real. I did like a couple week-long things that were like summer.
for those of us who went to summer camp, they had to wake up with the alarm, and everybody had to eat their shitty food on their shitty plate.
I did boot camp. It was like it was.
Yes, boot
Is
camp.
that what you get at?
So it's weird, no, because the average person's conditioned to be so terrified of jail, and there's a legitimate reason to be terrified. People die in there, right? They get in fights, the cops kill you, they put you on life sentences. But if you take away all those scary things, and I think those dangers in their own way, the amount of dangers that exist in jail, there's more dangers you come into contact with in your daily life outside of jail.
Sure.
Absolutely, you don't have to pay your bills in there. You don't have to cook your food. You don't have to do your laundry. You're basically taken care of. You don't get to go where you want to go. It's an absolutely shitty experience, but it is not as terrifying as the media and TV make it out to be. And if the state's asking for 3 years of your life versus 1 year of your life, inside, give them a year inside. Don't give them 3 years of your life. Just don't.
All right. Would you like to introduce Bethany, dear? Is she backstage?
Bethany is backstage.
I've been pulling up the COVID block. We're gonna end the show.
We have to. When are we going to stop talking about COVID?
When it stops being a thing. No, I gotta do a summary block of like this, if only for Adam versus the Man to serve as an historical document of the times. But no, it's gonna be quick. We're gonna talk to Bethany. That's gonna be fun, and we're gonna end on a happy note after the COVID block.
Yay, happy note. Well, Bethany is backstage. She is a cannabis refugee patient advocate, as well as co-founder and former board member of We Are the 74. She is currently launching the Arena organization, a cannabis advocacy and public policy organization. She also runs the Mississippi Cannabis News Network on YouTube, which is relaunching last month. And you're also in the Women's Cannabis Chamber of You're all over the place, woman. Settle down. Is there anything you do?
Everywhere.
Fucking stoners, so lazy.
I can say they're lazy and unmotivated as podcast. So,
yeah, there is the whole stereotype that stoners are lazy, and that is the biggest stereotype that I love to break.
Indeed.
It's a good one to break, for sure. So what's going on in Mississippi? You guys just launched legalization, and I use those finger quotes for it, so please don't take it personally.
Yes, we did. And actually, in our bill, there's not a long timeline. We expect full dispensaries in operation by the end of September.
So I gotta back you both up for the sake of the audience, whoever wants to handle this. But for people who are just coming into this for the first time, we're going back to at least Mississippi's 74 referendum, where 74% of the population voted for what, and then what happened, and then how that get us to this.
So
We're in today.
Yeah, so we got to this point because in 2020 in our election, we had ballot initiative 65 that we collected signatures for, and it made it to the ballot. And then when it made it to the ballot, it actually passed with an overwhelming 74% of the vote. It was incredible. And actually, where we had 2 medical cannabis programs available, 65 and 65 alternative. So a medical cannabis program in Mississippi had over 1 million votes where the Mississippians were saying, we want cannabis in this state. And then 6 months later, the Supreme Court actually overturned it, saying we collected the signatures out of the wrong district amount. So we fought for 8.5 months. And actually, not only did we fight, we actually worked with the legislators hand in hand. They educated us, we educated them on cannabis, and we actually did our best to create a bill that would not only pass and get a lot of support from both the public and the legislative body as a whole. We worked with them, educated them on cannabis and why it was important to have things like smokables. And there's a lot of things that we couldn't get to pass with this bill, like home grow, that we're going to continue to fight for. And that's where the new organization comes into play. The 74 was based on that vote. The Arena organization will focus on full cannabis advocacy and public policy. So the voice of the people will continue to resonate with the legislators. And we're going to continue to mediate that bridge.
Yeah, I got a sidebar from that narrative, if you don't mind, before we get into the particular where we are now with this. But when you're talking to those legislators, where'd Joey go? Did you just take yourself off screen so you could hit the bong?
I could pick my teeth.
Oh, so you figure that makes more sense. Here, have a floss pick. Sorry. Wait, no, we lost Joey.
Back here,
yeah, right.
Joey, where are you?
Those legislators, that you were educating them. I don't really believe that you were educating them about cannabis. I believe that you were educating them that there were enough other people who knew this that represented enough of a political threat that they had to listen to you, because their attachment to their position is not based on truth or reason or lack of knowledge, but what you're doing is bringing a political threat and saying there's enough of us that we're organized, we're a political force. Is that fair? Or tell us, if not, tell us what do you think
I feel like it's not, because a lot of the education that I provide is personal experience. I'm a cannabis refugee. These people can't go move off and spend a decade living in another state. They didn't live in 2 states that were medical, 2 states that went recreational. They don't have personal experience. A lot more to education is what we have survived as a patient. It's not just what you read on the science of the ECS, which we can talk about.
Right, so it's education. So what's educating them is on the impact of the voters and how much this touches people.
Yes, exactly. We tell patient stories. A lot of them, I've got their respect just for the fact that I was offered disability in my early 20s and I've never taken it. I've always tried to continue to fight and work and do all these good things. When I was just basically told in this state, you're a check and you're a body in a bed to live off pharmaceuticals. I said, no, that's a perspective you can't just go Google.
Yeah, no, and I guess that is education. But it's not like, oh, cannabis is safe. Oh, cannabis helps with this. It's like, no, this is the implication of it. That's really powerful.
You had people in there with you with the science facts, I would assume. Right?
But that's not what resonates, right?
I don't think that's what resonates. And
we did.
But you're.
But I don't give them the excuse when they can Google that stuff. You know what I mean? You can Google it while you're on the toilet. I'm not going to give you an excuse to not look up the basic scientific studies that prove that cannabis is relevant. I'm going to tell you that when I was on non-prescriptions, I was almost dead, and that I can't tolerate pharmaceuticals at all. And I chose a different path so that I could stay working, stay continuing, improving my quality of life. If I would have listened to the doctors in this state, I would be dead by now.
So Joey had some interesting criticisms of the victory in the bill, and this is something we've heard before. Joey, you want to analyze that?
And I have criticized every bill since.
Of course, there's not a perfect bill ever in existence.
And I participated in getting passed, and I got my start in cannabis activism. You did. I had personal storytelling. I had plenty of time on my hands, and the representatives, they really. When you sit down with them in their offices and essentially have coffee with them and tell them what's going on, a lot of them are just they're taken back. Some of them are disgusted by that. They don't know these things. They're at work doing government bullshit, zombie slave shit every day, right? They can't pay attention. Whose fault is that?
Well, they've been
Theirs.
selected
But
into those positions because they generally, genuinely believe them. And those people are the best sales front people for the evil system. And so some of their positions are actually easy to win them out of. The problem is then they don't get reelected because then they don't get that all the sponsorship money. If they start doing the right thing for the people. That's not how this system works.
But I've got criticisms with every bill. I don't believe there's a true legalization bill anywhere in this country that exists. I'm sorry, not as far as this industry is discriminated against versus all others in America. But your bill, wow, is within 4 grams a day or 4 grams a day limit. Doesn't even total, and I'm sure they do this on a 30-day rolling scale of some sort. And that doesn't even come out to an even 2 ounces. Like, what is it? Like 2.1 or something?
It's 3 ounces a month is the limit. 3 ounces.
And you can't get, so for instance, with me in Maryland.
Which is funny because it's just low enough to be a pain in the ass.
I know, yeah.
For a heavy smoker. For me, like, it would be, okay, so like, I just like to buy
you can't
bulk.
afford that anyway.
I mean, it drives up the prices. It creates more market pressure for the retail exchange. It creates a massive inefficiency. It makes it less, and poor people are less able to afford subsidizing government inefficiencies imposed on the market. So it's going to limit access that way. And it sounds like a dumb thing to bitch about, but it's like, really?
It's not.
Really? This is how you're going to limit it by just because there's a huge silver lining out of this. I got to point out a huge silver lining though, dear, is that every Mississippi cannabis customer who starts going to dispensaries is going to be like, oh yeah, it is government that makes everything a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it's going to, it will be revealed, but I'm glad when the medical bill passed because then a good portion of people aren't going to be arrested for weed anymore. And that just.
Well, we hope, or they shift
But
right? That's what
we're not done. We are going to try to push for 5 ounces without question because I'll be honest with you, just because I could get 3 ounces approved now doesn't mean that's enough medicine for me. I need a quarter of flour a day at minimum. Now, I lived 7 years in legal states. I know that's what I need. I've tried multitudes of products. Inhalations are my best bet, and I can't vape. So I need organic, natural flour and about a quarter of that a day. So we will be, obviously, we're going to stay very active from now on as a Mississippi voter and a voting advocacy group. So that's where our power comes in, is the Mississippi Complacent Voter has been long time running, and that time is done. We're going to educate people on how to vote properly and what they're voting for and get them registered. We're just not done. There were so many things to do. We have a job fair coming up so we can help this industry grow. Just all these things. And I know this program isn't perfect, but it's a perfect skeleton to start with. And we will continue to educate them so that we can get better laws, better amendments. For instance, I should have never been able to have a child. They try to do a hysterectomy in my early 20s. Endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, they literally affect me daily. Those items are not included on the list of conditions. So that's something else I want to put on there. So we just worked as hard as we could to get something that we could work with. And then now we're going to push for all the changes that need to happen to make it a better program in the next year.
I'm glad you guys are still working on it because.
Oh yeah, we won't stop.
What else is there? There's no home grow. Oh, counties are allowed to vote and opt out of the medical program. That's horseshit. Yeah, I mean, I hate that.
So now you're just going to make people drive across county lines like every other day.
I'm okay with counties opting out for rec dispensaries, but if you're going to label it medical and give all customers patients,
you better have free access. If the access is legitimate, like, what are you doing limiting that? If the doctor said take this much, fuck you for saying you can only have.
Exactly.
Just
No, and we are already in the process of working. That was the first thing that we did literally the week that it passed before it went to Tate, because we felt like Tate was going to do the right thing. How could you not win 74% of your state? How could you not sign this bill that so many people came together and worked for across the legislative bodies, cannabis organizations, independent activists, you name it? You can't do that. So we knew he'd sign it at the last minute. If he ever wants to have a life in politics, how could he not? So once this thing went into place, we immediately started working, trying to figure out which counties are going to try to opt out. Where do we need to go? I'm going down for Magnolia Grows. I'm actually going to be at their Board of Supervisors meeting on the 24th to help them. I'm going to Lincoln County to help with their Board of Supervisors. So anybody that is afraid that their county is going to try to opt out, we're going right into those areas in the next couple of weeks. We are going to help activists. We've helped on a large scale. Now we're going to help on countywide scale. So we're already in contact with Board of Supervisors talking about why this is important, how many in their precinct actually voted for this, and educating them on, pretty much if you ever want a life in politics, it's probably not best to vote against cannabis when 80% of your county voted for it.
so it sounds like this big win, although much smaller than we were hoping for, is enough to create the momentum that we can slog through the next few rounds to get Mississippi fair access, to get to recreational, to get past quantity restrictions, at least in the next election cycle or two. And I'm very encouraged to see that Mississippi has you as the custodian of that momentum. I would hope that you can build a core team, because I know you've had turmoil, but if Mississippi had 3 or 4 people like you, that and I know you have a team of various degrees of commitment and involvement, but if you had 3 or 4 people like you who are really committed to that, I would feel absolutely confident in saying, yeah, 2 years you're going to have awesome access. There's no way in 4 years you don't have full rec in Mississippi. That's pretty cool to be able to,
And that's our plan.
even relatively conservatively, something like that. Yeah.
Well, 74% of the population voted on a bill that was much better than this. So I think convincing them to sign
You're going
whatever
to catch up
petitions
to that
they have to do
within
to
an
catch
election
up
cycle.
within the counties. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be a lot easier to do.
Yeah, there aren't going to be that many counties that are going to get away with denying. It's just going to be, there's going to be a few. There's going to be a handful of. There are going to be a handful of super conservative counties that represent the 26%, right, as majorities there, where they're going to be able to stop this, and that's unfortunate. But I want to shift gears for a second to.
But we can collect signatures. If the county opts out, the people can actually vote to put it back in, and once you're in, you're in. So we're going to help. Once the county does opt out, we're actually going to help people collect signatures in their area. We're going to work with each independent area to make sure that they get the everything and the medicine and stuff that they need, that they voted for. TVA is causing problems in North Mississippi. I've already reached out trying to get a meeting with them. There's just a lot of different variables that affect different parts.
I want to get away from the sort of immediate political side of this and get to enforcement policy, because this is so important. And Joey reminded me of this, and I think it's come down in the last year, but the first few years of cannabis legalization and medical programs throughout the United States, the first decade really, cannabis arrests didn't go down meaningfully in terms of the national total of arrests for cannabis. They just shifted from users to traffickers, right? And they busted more people for trafficking and crossing borders and paraphernalia and other stupid shit. So all of this stuff.
They were waiting in dispensary parking lots.
Yeah, I mean,
I
the
actually
numbers.
experienced that.
Can Mississippi be better than the rest of the country that way and lessen the viciousness of enforcement simultaneously? Bethany?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Yeah.
Did we lose you for a second? Go ahead, Bethany.
I think she's freezing.
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you.
I think it's your signal.
Sorry.
Babel is crumbling. We're ready for it. Don't worry.
Sorry, you guys. My service is dropping. It's just I live out in the country. Y'all know how Mississippi is.
Oh, we lost you completely.
Hopefully she calls back.
But that was an important question, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a take on that one?
My answer is no. I have no faith in
Mississippi police.
Mississippi police and just the general culture of the South. None of the people who live in the South, they're always been, from my experience, real,
The
bad.
culture of authority.
The culture of authority in the South is treacherous and terrible and hasn't quite gotten out of 1930 yet.
Okay, so
that's my take, but I don't live there. So I did. I spent a comfortable stint in Central and Northern Virginia for 5 years.
Yeah, you did.
Terrible.
Okay, so Bethany, the question is, any positive shift in enforcement in Mississippi going along with?
Actually, we at the Capitol, I basically spent every week in January down at the Capitol. And the third or fourth week, we actually had a day where the sheriffs from the area, all over the state came into the area and had different meetings. And we talked to so many of them at the Capitol. We offered our services to come in and explain the benefits of cannabis, how to help them recognize when person is a legit patient, try to explain to them really what it means to be a cannabis patient. So we've offered our services to come in, which I've actually done in the last couple of years. I live in a very tiny town, but we offered to come in and educate them on why cannabis is important, how it actually helps, like ECS science and things like that. But then honestly, a lot of these cops, they're dealing with so many problems with meth in our area and things like that, that they realize cannabis is really just helping people. So a lot of the independent officers themselves feel personally that cannabis is important and that we need it. So they're actually looking forward to this. That's the image I'm getting from people, is they're actually looking forward to this. Meth has become a huge problem in Mississippi.
That kind of makes sense, that there's for any kind of well-intentioned cops on the ground, I don't have to worry about pot anymore.
I think, yeah. And a lot of cops you talk to are like, I don't agree with it, but it's like I have to do it. It's a law. Like, and that was.
Or I feel like kind of a dick, or I feel silly.
But then you have
right?
malintent cops.
I feel like we're the
course,
backwards
use that or
thing.
anything else just to harass people. So
Yeah. And I mean, I live in a little town. I'm an open cannabis activist in an illegal state like Mississippi. And I have been for 3 years. I opened a CBD and hemp store in this tiny town. So, of course, obviously, I'm a huge cannabis activist, and they don't harass me. They haven't been rude to me. When I've met them, they have been so open to information and my story and how cannabis saved my life. And they're wonderful. But the thing is, a lot of them have had family members who they themselves would say that they would have benefited from cannabis in the last years of cancer and things like that. So this is starting to affect people on a whole different level, because they're mourning people that they lost, that cannabis would have helped make that a lot easier.
That's it.
Cannabis makes everything easier.
That's the education that's needed, the personal testimony. As you can tell people.
Exactly. And PTSD. A lot of these guys have been in the military. They suffer with PTSD as well. So when they find out that it can actually help them, or even just topicals with old injuries and things like that, they don't have to smoke it. When they find out there's all these different options that can help them or their family members, most of them are actually really excited to learn more.
Well, the police will use medical cannabis. Is that correct? That's how it is in most states.
It's correct. But topicals typically don't enter the system enough that it would show up on a drug test, typically if you use like a balm or something like that for pain. So most of them like to stick with topicals.
Sure. That would make sense. And
well, until we can actually get them where they can use it legally with no problem.
Federal thing. That's got to stop at the federal level first because of the funding, unfortunately. It's that the firearm ownership, I know that's going to and has probably been making a lot of Mississippians pretty fucking upset when they discovered that you can't own a firearm as a medical patient, and which is never in bills. It's just spoken. That's how it is. Unless you live in a state like, for instance, in the state of Virginia, I can sell you a firearm as long as I give you a written receipt, and that written receipt can be on the back of a business card, and there needs to be no
exactly.
Nothing. So if you live in a state like that where you don't have to fill out the questionnaire, the background check, then you're fine. But if you live in a background check state, you can't own a firearm. Or if you want to own a firearm, you have to lock a federal document. So it's really a catch-22. Which one do you want to go to jail for, right?
Exactly, it is. And honestly, the federal background check is a huge problem because I'm an avid shooter. I love to go shoot guns. It's really important to me. And that's something that we want to try to change. So we're not just focusing on Mississippi and fixing the rest of this bill. We're already simultaneously moving into other states that don't have programs to help their activists and their legislators begin to work together. And we're working on a national scale to really legalize federally in the next 2 years.
That's awesome.
It could be that soon. It could be that soon. It's a very exciting possibility.
See it yet?
We have about 20 activists in the UK following what we're doing here now already in the UK, and they want us to help them. So there's a lot of cannabis activists coming together and seeing what Mississippi has done and really ready to change this. I mean, if you want to be a complacent voter, then that's fine, but you can't really, gripe about what's going down with corrupt politicians. You ready to vote them out? You ready to get active in your government? We'll show you how. And that may need to do.
Well,
It's so effective
in a lot of states, we're going to have to move to mushrooms for the leverage for that. I think mine is starting to kick in just a little bit. But I was warmed up.
I feel it's calling for us to work on a mushroom legislation bill.
Oh, absolutely. Psilocybin is my next thing, girl. I'm always thinking 3-4 years ahead. The COC, actually, the Chamber of Commerce, does a lot with psilocybin legalization. So I'm really excited about that front. And my course in effective activism will be coming out under the COC this year. So we'll be helping a lot of activists learn how to get legalization in their state and going into other states who have a subpar program and trying to help them as well. All while we try to fix Mississippi's program and make it the best.
That's great.
The thing about mushrooms is we already made it legal to grow them and give them away and do them wherever I am. So the thing about mushrooms, I'm like, yeah, that's the next thing. And then you go legislation. I go, wait, no, I don't want to do legislation. I just want to do mushrooms.
The goals are just to normalize medicine, normalize natural medicine. Cannabis and psilocybin are natural medicine. If you believe in God and you're religious, then they're God-given plants that were here to reset the system and take care of the human body. If you're not religious, then you can literally say, well, it's a plant that benefits me like lavender. We're complicating a problem that's very uncomplicated.
No, it just reminds me that, like, even with cannabis right now, the point is not legalization. It's almost a distraction. It's almost empowering the political process. What we care about is safe, legal, effective, or excuse me, not legal, safe, reliable access, safe, reliable, cheap access to the whole panoply of natural medicines that have been kept from us by the drug war and government, right? How it ends, like, and how it becomes, like, I don't really care. As far as I'm concerned, they could say that, picking your nose is illegal in Washington, D.C. If they can never come on my property to write me a ticket for it, fuck them. And we got to apply broader thinking. So yes, there is. I'm not discounting your work, but that its measurement is not in legalization. Its measurement is in how much access do we create for people, and I think that's what we need to be celebrating in this victory, because it was a major turning point by that measure.
Thank you. And we're so excited to just keep trying. I mean, we've never been perfect. We're regular people that came together trying to make a difference. I mean, literally 9 months ago, I was slinging coffee. I mean, so we haven't been perfect and things have been hard and we went through a lot, but we are so proud that at least some patients by September will have some medicine. And you know what? By the next year, we're hoping that we can go in and make sure even more patients. We want to get people that are in jail out, and we want them home for the holidays. So we've been in planning mode for so long to try to make this state better, and we're not going to stop. The time of the corrupt Mississippi politician is done. We're not going to allow it anymore.
Amen. Bethany, how can people connect with you? What we want people to be able to donate to support your efforts, who care about supporting your work, and what is a critical front in the war on drugs, where cannabis legalization is still a relevant fight, sadly, in the backwards ass state, as some people would call it, of Mississippi, especially when hearing talks like this.
We got a reputation. We do.
But also for people, importantly, if not more so, regionally and in the state, to hook up with you as volunteers. So please tell us how they can connect with you and your quick pitch for that.
Yeah, so we have the Arena organization, which just launched last week, and that is our public policy and cannabis activist group. Also, MCNN will be relaunching in March, and we'll have new shows coming out. We've been working with a new production team on that, so it'll have a whole brand new launch in the next couple of months. And then we actually have a lot of things going on as far as the Mississippi Cannabis Industry Expo, CannaFest. You name it. So follow the Arena organization. That's where we're going to start putting all of our updates. And of course, you can follow us on MCNN. We'll be putting updates on there before we launch our new shows.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all your work and for joining us
Yeah.
tonight, Beth.
Thank you.
Well, you were going to say something to sum up, dear.
I'm sorry, I should have, and I looked up.
You're too
and then
high
she
this
was
one. Are you
gone.
tripping?
No, I'm taken back by all the. You've got Maxine Waters in your Odyssey comments, just blowing it up with terrible, terrible racist and anti-Semitic language.
Oh, so we've got one of those trolling us?
Yeah, those trolls.
Well, we don't have time to indulge it because
I like the trolls for entertainment value, but this isn't entertaining. Like I want entertaining trolls next time.
Yeah,
okay. Try harder.
Yeah.
Weak.
Troll harder.
Basic bitch trolling.
Okay, well, I was only planning on 2 hours for the show tonight, so we didn't build a break in. So our COVID block is going to be really short because my bladder is really full, and I don't want to talk with this. It's only a weekly COVID block now, okay? And so it's just like a mixed bag. We're going to start with this shock video. Comedian brags about being vaxxed seconds before fainting on stage. This is Heather McDonald. And everybody should go watch the video. It's on my Twitter. I honestly thought it was fake. It is so, and the audience thought it was a joke too. If you watch the video, you'll hear the audience laughing. They thought it was a joke. So Heather McDonald faints on stage while bragging about being vaccinated. I mean, it's like, and the reason I know it's real is she got, I mean, I don't know, this could be fake too, but then she wouldn't do it for the joke. She got a skull fracture doing it.
Oh my God.
And you go, yeah, she's great. Anyway, go watch the video.
You should play the video.
It's 40 seconds, whatever.
Oh.
And it really is visual too to see her on stage. But anyway, this headline is top of drudge right now from APnews.com. Under pressure to ease up Biden weighs new virus response. That's the take of the federal government right now, and where we're at with the narrative falling apart. HollywoodReporter.com also has this headline: Oscars COVID-19 vaccination will not be required for in-person attendees.
Good for you, Oscars.
No, that fuck that. The point is they can't do it at this point. They can't. It's so the core. Remember, the core lie is that COVID-19 represents a special threat that justifies coercive intervention and government policy to X blah 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 blah. Right? And Karen is now a verb. Virtue signaling and all that. And the fact that they're not doing it is just one indicator of the national mood. But as I've said before, they could bring it back at any time. And so this headline, I forget where, I think this was in the Producers Club, from Live Science: newfound variant of HIV progresses to AIDS faster and may be more transmissible. Sub-headline: available treatments work equally well against the variant. Now, be afraid of AIDS might be the next thing to keep people divided.
Look.
I have to say it had a major effect on me. I was never afraid of drugs, but I was afraid of sex. I said, Joey, you can't interrupt because I got to pee. But yeah, better be fucking quick.
AIDS is making a comeback. That's it.
Right, but that's what they could use, and all this medical theory now because we have accepted the lie. We have joined as a society. We have primarily joined government in the lie that unique biological threats can be justification for coercive government intervention. And that is fundamentally fucking untrue. Whether the virus is a threat or not, to what degree it's a threat or not, is irrelevant. The way I phrase that very specifically. And again, what if you say that is what gets you censored. Jerusalem Post, jpost.com, COVID-19 booster shot can cause irregular menstrual periods, health ministry. Oh, what? Is this another I told you so for the conspiracy theorists over here? Just people who are skeptical of the COVID is bullshit narrative? Yeah. the hits keep on coming. Joey, you got to give me this one. I had to cover it. Seriously. Yeah. You get Mets, yeah, with blood clotting.
Yeah.
The people who said it was effective now say it's not effective. You need more boosters. You think they were telling the truth when they said it's safe? No. No. All right, we're going to end, though. No producer notes. I really have to pee that bad.
Mhm.
We're actually going to end. That's a cue for Jim to have the outro. Unless, Jim, any ombudsman notes? We'll give Jim the fill in here. Jim, did I get anything
No.
wrong?
No ombudsman notes. I also have to go to the bathroom.
All right, well then we're gonna, especially since we had the Adam looks like a Canadian trucker, we're gonna end the show with a quick meme shout out to the Canadian trucker protest. This is from @VolMemes, which is now known as Truckers Against Tyrants on Telegram, my favorite meme channel on Telegram. I see them all day, every day, and it's a picture of Pepe the Frog with the clown nose and clown hair. You see this, right? And the meme says, if you don't like honks, you shouldn't have created Clown World. And with that, mwah, peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.